shield. Instead, I opened our old family group chat from before everything went to hell. I scrolled back years. There was Eve asking me for help with her algebra homework, calling me her favorite cousin when I visited from college. Her last message to me before the accusation, asking me to bring her a souvenir from university. My phone rang. Human Resources Department. I let it go to voicemail and listened immediately. This is Janet from Human Resources. We've received a concerning email about you from a family member. We need to schedule a mandatory meeting for tomorrow morning to discuss some allegations about your stability and history. Please call me back to confirm. I walked back inside, and my supervisor, Mike, pulled me aside. Hey, heads up. That woman who was here earlier sent some pretty serious emails to HR. She seemed very convincing. Mentioned something about violence toward women. Just wanted you to know what you're walking into tomorrow. After work, I drove to my parents' neighborhood. Not to their house. I wasn't ready for that. But to Mrs. Chen's house next door. She'd always been kind to me. Even sent a card saying she didn't believe the accusations. Mrs. Chen invited me in for tea. Her hands shook as she poured. Whether from age or nervousness, I couldn't tell. Your parents told everyone you'd been getting help for your problem, she said quietly. But I never believed you had a problem to begin with. That evening, I created a throwaway email account from the library computer. I attached the screenshots of Eve's confession and sent them to Tom Williams' work email, which I found on his company website. Then, I immediately deleted the account. At 11 p.m., I couldn't help myself. I drove past Eve's apartment complex. Tom's BMW sat in visitor parking. Even from the street, I could hear shouting from her second-floor unit. A window slammed shut. My phone lit up with a text from Eve. I'm telling everyone you doctored those screenshots. I was still sitting in my car processing that when headlights pulled up behind me. I tensed, ready for confrontation, but it was Amy, my sister Amy. She got out of her car, and even in the streetlight, I could see her mascara was streaked. She knocked on my window. I rolled it down, but didn't say anything. Mom showed me the screenshot, Amy said, her voice shaking. I've been thinking about that time Eve lied about me stealing her iPad. Remember? She was so convincing, even had details about when and how I did it. Then we found it under her bed a week later. She glanced at my passenger seat and noticed my packed gym bag by the door. Were you planning on going somewhere? I shook my head, just like to be prepared. Amy got in the passenger seat without asking. She did this stuff all the time as a teenager. False illness claims before tests, fake injuries before family events she didn't want to attend. Remember when she said she had appendicitis right before Grandpa's 80th birthday? The hospital found nothing wrong. My phone buzzed. Tom Williams again. She admitted it to me. I'm done. She doesn't know I'm talking to you. I showed Amy the text. She grabbed my phone and typed back before I could stop her. Can you record her if she admits it again? Tom's response was immediate. Already thinking the same thing. She's been spiral texting me all night. She's mentioned having proof you stalked her. I know it's bullshit. Amy handed my phone back. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. The next morning, Eve had posted on Instagram a black square with white text about toxic family members trying to rewrite history. The hashtags made me sick. #survivor, #my truth, #healing journey. Within an hour, 3 cousins had texted me asking if the post was about me. One mentioned Eve had been acting weird lately at family functions. I was walking into work when I got another text from Tom. Meeting you at the diner on 5th Street at noon. I have something you need to hear. I arrived at the diner early and took a booth in the back corner. My hands wrapped around a coffee cup I didn't intend to drink. The waitress, Catherine, recognized me from my regular visits and gave me a sympathetic nod. She'd seen me here plenty of mornings after rough nights. Tom Williams walked in exactly at noon. He looked exhausted, his usually perfect banker appearance disheveled. Dark circles under his eyes told me he hadn't slept. He slid into the booth across from me and pulled out his phone. He showed me a voice recording app with dozens of files dated from the past 2 nights. He explained that after receiving my email, he'd confronted Eve. She'd broken down, admitted everything, then immediately tried to spin new versions of the story. He'd recorded all of it. He played one recording where Eve practiced different explanations. In one version, she claimed I'd been harassing her recently. In another, she said I'd threatened her family. Each iteration got more elaborate, more damaging. The manipulation was methodical, calculated. Tom handed me a folder with printed emails between Eve and her best friend Chloe. They discussed contingency plans for if the truth ever came out. Eve had written detailed strategies for maintaining her victim status, including claims of recent stalking and threats. Before I could respond, the diner door chimed. Eve walked in, scanning the room frantically. Catherine immediately stepped in her path and loudly announced she didn't serve liars. Eve's face flushed as other patrons turned to stare. She spotted us and tried to approach, but Catherine physically blocked her. Eve left quickly, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Bella. Amy had brought her to my house that morning. She wanted to talk. I met them at my place after leaving the diner. Bella was crying before she even got inside. She pulled out a journal from 2015 and handed it to me with shaking hands. She documented Eve's behavior patterns throughout their teenage years, lying about teachers, faking panic attacks, manipulating family members for attention. Entry after entry showed a clear pattern of deception. Bella admitted she'd suspected Eve was lying about me, but had been too scared to speak up. The family's reaction had been so severe, so immediate. She'd convinced herself she must be wrong. That afternoon, I got a Facebook message from Rachel, Eve's college roommate. She'd seen Eve's Instagram post and recognized the manipulation tactics. She had her own proof, screenshots of Eve bragging about destroying someone who'd crossed her. The messages were from our sophomore year of college. Eve had written detailed plans about how she'd ruin someone's life if they ever ignored her. One message made my blood run cold. My cousin learned not to ignore me. I responded carefully to Rachel, maintaining a professional tone despite my rage. She offered to send everything she had. Within an hour, I had chat logs showing Eve's history of false accusations, including one against a professor who'd given her a bad grade. Meanwhile, I had to deal with the HR complaint. I wrote a measured response, CCing a lawyer friend who'd offered to help. I explained the situation factually, included the evidence of Eve's confession, and maintained complete professionalism. My coworkers noticed my calm demeanor and started asking questions. Word spread quickly through the warehouse about what was really happening. Eve's desperation was escalating. Tom informed me she'd been placed on administrative leave from her marketing firm after he'd shared information about her history of false allegations. Their wedding, scheduled for 3 weeks away, was obviously canceled. She was spiraling. That evening, I was at the grocery store when I felt someone watching me. I turned to see my mother at the end of the aisle. Her hands shook as she approached. She whispered an apology, tears streaming down her face. She was wearing the necklace I'd given her for her 50th birthday. Before we could talk more, Eve appeared from the next aisle. She'd been following my mother. Eve immediately started talking loudly about how I was manipulating everyone, how I'd doctored evidence. Other shoppers began staring. I stayed silent, remembering the security cameras overhead. My mother looked between us, her face crumbling as she saw Eve's mask slipping. Eve then made an unexpected move. She offered me $50,000 from her trust fund to leave town and start fresh somewhere else. She said it loud enough for others to hear, framing it as generous compensation for a misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone and started recording, making sure she repeated the offer. She did, adding that all I had to do was sign a statement saying the screenshots were fake. That night, I received a text from Aunt Linda, Eve's mother. She wanted to talk. Something wasn't adding up with Eve's constantly changing story. We agreed to meet at a neutral location.